Chapter 8. 1. The dry heaven is dead, and the Ying heaven is established. The year is in Atwo, days passed in a flash. Silver Moon City. Early in the morning, the first ray of sunlight shone down. In the southern part of the city, a group of city guards changed shifts. The city guards, who had been busy all night, stretched their backs and were about to hand over and leave. Suddenly, that city guard rubbed his eyes, as if he didn't think his eyes had been wiped clean. He rubbed them again. With a jolt, that city guard instantly came to his senses. Someone, those words, where did they come from? That city guard shouted with glaring eyes. My lord, what's wrong? The other city guards around them were puzzled and followed what they were counting on. However, they saw that on top of a mountain wall in the distance, 8 huge words were being sketched out with iron paintings and silver hooks at this moment. Although Ying is 3 households, the death of Jin will be Ying. A cultivator passing by the city gate read out. Hiss. The city gates were filled with the sound of cold air being sucked in. What's going on? What kind of person wrote this? Bold. The city guards exclaimed. Ying. Could it be the great Ying imperial dynasty of the past? The death of Jin must be Ying. This is a treacherous statement. Huh. The surrounding people immediately exchange words. Quickly, someone come and destroy those words for me. No, it can't be destroyed. Quick, go report to the Lord. Quick, the city guard leader shouted at once. Yes, the crowd of guards immediately panicked. At the same moment, on the east side of Silver Moon City, the same scene appeared, only the words changed. The crowd of city guards and the people passing by were suddenly wide-eyed. Jin Chon is dead. Ying Chon is in power. The year is in a Z. The world is blessed. Some of the people read it out dumbfounded. Jin Chon is dead. Ying Shan is to be established. This is a rebellion. No, this is. A crowd of people were surprised. The city guards were also sweating in shock. Quickly, notify the Lord. Quickly notify the Lord. The others follow me over. Find out for me who wrote these big words. The leader of the city guards said in shock and anger. The news quickly traveled to the city lord's mansion. Sima Changkong was in the middle of a conversation with the divine martial king when he suddenly heard his subordinates report to him. Both of them changed their faces. Go take a look, divine martial king said in a deep voice. Rumble. A huge flying boat carrying King Shenwu, Sima Changkong, and some other officials and generals quickly flew out of the city. The divine martial king's flying boat, however, no one dared to stop it, and it flew out unhindered in the city. It quickly arrived at the stone wall in the east of the city. Jin Chon is dead. Ying Chon is in power. The year is in a Z. The world is auspicious. King Shenwu said with a gloomy face. The flying boat quickly came to the south. Although Ying is 3 households, the death of Jin will be Ying. Sima Changkong also had a gloomy face. Your Majesty, my lord, stone carvings were also found in the west of the city. An official instantly ran over in panic. Go over and take a look, King Shenwu said in a deep voice. Shoo. The flying boat quickly arrived at the western part of the city, only to see 6 large characters carved above the stone wall in the distance. Great Ying Xing, Emperor Liu Yong. Great Ying Xing, Emperor Liu Yong. King Liu Yong wants to become an emperor. The Great Ying Dynasty. King Shenwu raised an eyebrow. Your Highness, Your Excellency. The words against Jin and restore Ying have appeared in the north of the city. Many people are crowding around, and many of the people have gathered there, pointing and pointing. Another official came running. King Shenwu, Sima Changkong, and the others all had grim faces. King Liu Yang, can't he wait? King Shenwu took a deep breath and said in a deep voice. Sima Changkong shook his head and said, it shouldn't be. King Liu Yong couldn't possibly raise an army to rebel at this time. Huh. But how can these words of treason be released with such fanfare? That's right. It's unwise for King Liu Yong to raise an army to rebel right now. Besides, that Mo Yika couldn't possibly allow King Lu Yong to rebel at this moment. But if it's not King Lu Yong, who could it be? Divine Martial King frowned. On the side, Sima Changkong but steeply raised his eyebrows. Your Majesty, this style is a bit, maybe I'm overthinking it. What are you swallowing for? Just say what you have. Divine Martial King frowned. No, Your Highness. I have a feeling that this is somewhat like your high style. Maybe I'm overthinking it. How can I possibly conclude with this? Sima Changkong smiled bitterly. Ancient Sea, Divine Martial King said doubtfully. Yes, there's some resemblance. These four treacherous antitheses, although simple, but they're not that easy to write. Sima Changkong's eyes narrowed slightly and said, Oh, there are countless slogans of rebellion, but there are not many that can be recited aloud and engraved into the heart once. These four phrases, although they do not have any profound literary meaning, but they can instantly penetrate one's subconscious mind, Sima Changkong said in a deep voice. King Shenwu frowned slightly and nodded. Your Majesty, what about these words? An official said doubtfully. Destroy them all, and make every effort to track down the person who carved the words on the stone wall, King Shenwu said in a deep voice. Yes, the officials answered. If it's really Gu Hai's doing, then this might just be the beginning. Sima Changkong frowned. It wasn't just Silver Moon City. At this moment, the bizarre scene appeared in 100 cities and pools in Yingju, almost simultaneously. Outside the cities, words of great treachery appeared in 4 places. Although Ying has 3 households, the death of Jin will be Ying. Jin Chon is dead. Ying Chon will be established. The year is in a Z. The world is in good luck. Great Ying will rise. Emperor Lu Yong. Against Jin and restore Ying. For a while, the land of Yingju blossomed everywhere. All the city's city masters were panicking and quickly erased the 4 sides of the big words to carry out full tracing. But these rebel words eventually spread into the various cities, although most of the people in the city scoffed. But, after all, there is a small part of the people talked about it. At the same time, destroy Fall City, a city that had just been newly built to specifically deal with Divine Foothill City. The countless generals outside the city were also attracted by these 4 words. Jin Chon is dead. Ying Chon is in power. The year is in a Z. The world is in good luck. Mo Yika recited these words from the east of the city. Next to him stood King Lu Yong and a host of other strategists. Who wrote this? King Lu Yang's eyes glared at his group of subordinates. King Lu Yong had embraced the army and was preparing to rebel. Some of his close friends were very clear about this. Not every one of his close friends had a lofty vision, but they all knew one thing. Once the Deng imperial dynasty was established, they would immediately be in a high position of power and rightfully situated in a high position. Therefore, many times they had spoken out to King Lu Yong to support the establishment of the emperor, but every time they were suppressed by Mr. Mo and King Lu Yong. Now, it couldn't be that any of his close friends had jumped over the wall, could it? Destroy the stone wall and trace it with all your might. Whoever dares to mess up the king's plan is a capital offense. Mo Yika glared at the group of officials and said in a cold voice. Yes, the crowd of subordinates answered. Your Highness, in the army, many generals are starting to discuss this matter. Broken Army spoke in a deep voice. Oh, King Lu Yang frowned slightly. Your Majesty, this is the will of heaven. Heaven is telling you that the time has come. An official, however, was unknowingly excited. King Lu Yong twisted his head. His eyes glared and said, Nonsense, caning. Ah, Your Majesty, Your Majesty, I'm innocent, the official shrieked. The group of officials behind him who wanted to support him suddenly shut up. Whoever speaks of rebellion again will have their entire clan exterminated. King Lu Yong coldly stared at the crowd. Yes, the subordinates answered. Waving away the crowd, only Broken Army and Mo Yika were left behind. Your Highness, only some of the generals are talking about it, but most of them are scoffing and don't care. Broken army laughed. King Liu Yang nodded. Mo Yike, however, frowned slightly and said, "Perhaps we thought wrong." "Oh, just now, this group of people. No one had the guts to mess around. These words, perhaps they weren't carved by our people." Mr. Mo frowned. "Not my people." King Liu Yong steeped, his eyes slightly narrowed. "Yes, perhaps from my enemies." Mo Yike frowned. "Divine Foothills Imperial Dynasty," King Liu Yong said doubtfully. Mo Yike shook his head and said, "If it's just the Divine Foothill Imperial Dynasty that started the rumor, that's nothing. What I'm worried about is that His Holiness deliberately sent someone to write it." King Liu Yang's pupils abruptly shrank. "The Sacred Emperor wrote it. Impossible, right?" King Liu Yong frowned. "I don't know, but it's unlikely. Moreover, the people's discussion is only for a moment. It's not possible to discuss it for too long, now that the world is peaceful. These rebellious slogans are not very effective if it happens to be a chaotic world. These 4 slogans, they'll be fatal," Mo Yike said in a deep voice. "Not bad. Rebel slogans, simple and concise. Listen to the engraved brain. The person who wrote these 4 rebel slogans is not an easy generation." King Liu Yong nodded and said, "Your Majesty, immediately send people to the 4 Directions city to check if the other cities have this message. If there is, track it down with all your might and make sure to investigate thoroughly. At this time, there can't be any chaos," Mo Yike said in a deep voice. King Liu Yong nodded. Sure enough, it didn't take long for news to arrive. News came from one city after another, and outside the cities of all parties, slogans of rebellion appeared. 10 days later, King Liu Yang's residence. King Liu Yang's face was gloomy. "A bunch of losers. Can't we catch the person who carved the words until now?" Every day, a piece of mountain wall was carved with a slogan of rebellion. "It's already boiling over now. Your Majesty, we tried our best. We almost caught it once. Who would have thought it would vanish?" A general laughed bitterly. "It's the Foothill Stone Man. Your Majesty, I heard it right. It's the Foothill Stone Man," Broken Army said with a look of certainty. "It's good that it's the faux Stone Man. At least it's not the great Jin Sage." King Liu Yong nodded. On the side, Mo Yoka was revealing a bitter smile and said, "Your Majesty, perhaps my greatest worry has come. It's Gu Hai. It's definitely Gu Hai who Wang Fu Chaoj couldn't think of such a devious method. They're working together." Mo Yika laughed bitterly. "Mr. Mo, although news has come from the 4 Directions cities that stone carvings are constantly appearing, but isn't it just as you expected? The world is peaceful at the moment, and it's not a chaotic world, so the rebel slogans are not very effective. Among the 4 directions of the city, it is just a topic of conversation for some people after tea. Most people scoffed and just laughed it off. More people don't even know about this little matter." King Liu Yong shook his head and said, "No, if it's Gu Hai, then it's dangerous. Your Highness, have you forgotten what Gu Hai can do? If it's really Gu Hai's design, then this is just the beginning." Mo Yika laughed bitterly. "But the people don't believe in it at all nowadays. So what's the use of this slogan of rebellion? Who is he writing it for?" Broken Army on the side said in disbelief. Mo Yike fell into deep thought. The valley outside Foshen City. Wang Fu Chaoj looked at Gu Hai Dao. With these 4 slogans of rebellion, is it enough to frame King Liu Yang? It doesn't seem like it's enough, does it? Gu Hai shook his head as a cold light flashed in his eyes and said, "If he doesn't want to rebel, naturally he can't be framed, but if he wants to rebel, that's enough." "Oh, let the rumors fly for a while first." Gu Hai shook his head and did not explain.